Mm-hmm. 11.
Gwen, this is Gary Landry. I just wanted to let you know that there are 4 board members, so you can start the meeting whenever you're ready.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Can we start with roll call, please? Board members.
Board Member Douglas present.
Board Member McCormick present.
Good morning, Board Member Harris present.
Good morning.
Good morning. 1 second, let me.
So did I have roll call from all board members?
Brian Baltazar present.
This is Board Member McCormick. Can you hear me? I don't know if you.
I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Good morning.
Good morning. Did I see board member Stanton? I see her on the screen, but
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Kai Stanton, board member. I'm sorry.
Good morning, board members. Can I have roll call from the staff in the South, please?
Gary Landry, Executive Director here.
Bertha Jackson, Chief Operating Officer. Lauren Gossage, Regulatory Compliance Specialist. Janie Huggins, Regulatory Compliance Specialist.
Good morning. Can we have roll call from the staff from the North? Any staff from the North? I see Rodney Moore trying to connect.
And Gwen, we have one other person in the meetings. I want to introduce her. It's Chrissy Harris, our new DAG. And Chrissy can chime in and tell everyone she's here.
Good morning, everyone. This is Chrissy Harris.
Good morning, Ms. Harris. Rodney, I was waiting for you to say, to chime in for roll call.
Oh, I apologize. Rodney, inspector from the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology.
Okay, thank you. So we did roll call for everyone already. Okay, awesome. The mission statement for the Nevada State Board of Cosmetology is to protect the health and safety and welfare of those that obtain cosmetology-related services.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID.
Through the delivery of quality testing, licensing, inspection, and education services that focus on consumer protection. Comments from the general public. Is there any comments? Comments must be limited to 3 minutes, and you may comment on an item that is listed on the agenda or not published on the agenda. But if you have any comments, this is the time to make a comment, because we won't be commenting while the board member are taking actions moving forward. Okay, so I see a comment from, I saw some hands raised. Was that you, board member Baltazar?
No. If I did, I apologize, but no.
Okay. Okay, so there's no comments. All righty. So we'll move on to Our agenda action items. The proposed for a possible discussion and action. Proposed modification to NAC 644A 618 for discussion and possible action. So Director Landry, you want me to go ahead and get started with the information, or you want to speak about the first RO20-21?
I can speak first and then you can discuss after.
Okay.
The R020-21 is a proposed modification to the NAC. It modifies 644 A.618, and it modifies two sentences. The first is sentence 3. It says, except as otherwise provided in subsection 4, students shall not practice at home or cosmetological establishment, and shall not give demonstrations other than those required of them by the School of Cosmetology at the location of the school, or while on a field trip supervised by the instructors of the school. So that's one thing that allows it brings in a sentence 4. Sentence 4 is inserted. And it says, during a state of emergency or declaration of disaster proclaimed by the governor or by resolution of the legislature pursuant to NRS 414.070, the board may, by affirmative vote, authorize students to complete practical training at home. Such practical training must be limited to the practice fundamentals. This is where we allow practical training to be done at home only during an emergency or a disaster. And that's only if the board wants that to take place. It doesn't automatically go into place. The board has to have a vote and has to affirm action to say practical training will be allowed at home. That's what it does. That's the entirety of the changes made to the NAC.
Thank you, Director Landry. I just wanted to make sure too, to reinforce that all the board members had the opportunity to look over the information that was provided by our the board office. So if you have any questions, this is the time to, or concerns, board members, this is the time to ask those questions, and or if you have a comment, this is the time to make the comment. If not, I would like to call for a vote to accept R020-21 as an amendment into our regulation. Any comments or any questions by any of the board members? Can I call for a motion, please?
This is Board Member McCormick. I'd like to make a motion to accept the regulation change as stated. I don't know the number. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the number for me, Madam President?
It's just a R020-21, and it's just making an amendment to allow what Director Landry had just spoke about. You can just say R020-21 in reference.
R0 as stated by the president. Yeah, sorry.
Board Member Douglas, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So, yes?
This is Executive Director Landry. You've now taken the proposed modifications and adopted them. Now, step 2 is you need to adopt the regulation as modified. You didn't make any modifications, but you need to adopt them so that we can send it on to LCB.
Okay, so let me ask you this question before I do that. So the R020-21 is in reference just to that particular one? Or is it going to cover all proposed modifications? Are we going to continue to look at the impact statement, or we have already voted this into regulation?
You've already voted that into the regulation. You just need to adopt it in the regulation, and then we send it on to LCB. The small business impact statement, all the voting and all that went on with the schools, all that was discussed in a prior meeting. So the only thing you're doing today is adopting the regulations. You don't have to
Just
discuss
that particular regulation.
that.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. I think the board members need to be clear as well, because I was under the impression that we were going to, the board members, the ones that did not look, will have the opportunity before we adopt it, before I get to number 2 to adopt it, they can be able to comment on anything before we adopt in case there's something else that needs to be put in place.
You can do that. You can't.
Can I do that?
Yes, you can, because that would be an adjustment to R020-21. If you want to discuss that, make any modifications, you do that now.
Okay, I understand that. I just wanted to make sure. Board Member McCormick, you had a question?
I do, because I think we sent this draft to LCB, is that correct? And that's what we're getting back now. And so this next phase, I think we should have the opportunity to discuss it as well.
Yeah, it hasn't been sent to LCBD yet, I don't believe.
It has been sent, it just hasn't been fully adopted. Once the
Right,
board is
exactly.
adopted, then it'll go go before the LCB, goes before legislative committee, they approve it, it goes into the NAC.
Okay, thank you, Director Landry. Okay, so I think that the board, it sounds like the board would like for us to go through the actual, and it's not gonna take, it doesn't seem like it's gonna take a long time if they've already reviewed it, but I just want to be able to review it with them to make sure that they have a thorough understanding. Okay, so the small business impact statement, board, if you looked at that, it talked about the board office had actually sent out to the school owners, and I believe some of the, I guess it was owners and directors that maybe answered these questions to find out if it was going to be any negative impact or what the impact would be if the students were to actually, in the state of emergency, have to practice these services at home. So that's what the next one is about, the business impact survey. Did any board members have any questions about that?
I'll call you when I can. Okay.
No questions from any of the board members about the impact? The impact statement, no questions. Okay, we'll move on to the small business impact survey. So then the schools have the opportunity, or directors have the opportunity to survey. I mean, the board actually put their statements into a survey. And if you look at that survey, you'll see, the schools that felt that they didn't anticipate the regulation change being an impact, or the schools that didn't inadvertently think that of any impact. But then you see the schools too that was in some of those questions was pretty high, that they just didn't know. It was unknown at the time. And then the next one was the comments from each institution. If you read the comments, you were able to see what the institutions had to say related to those questions, and those comments were there for us to actually take a look at and take in consideration. And then down to the workshop minutes in May, when we actually had the workshop to go to LCB, the questions and comments are there. But I believe that when I was reading the workshop minutes, did we ever, Director Landry, did we ever say, or we just minimized it to services being done on mannequins? Did we ever say the services that the schools would be allowed to perform, or just any service that they can perform on a mannequin? That was my question.
There was no, just Executive Director Landry, There was no discussion about limiting what could be performed. It's just that any practical training had to be done on a mannequin. You couldn't use a model, you couldn't use a friend, you couldn't use a family member. It had to be done on a mannequin, and mannequin only because of the danger involved with you not being in a classroom where you have supervision by a teacher or instructor.
Okay. So before I call for a motion on the adoption, is there any board members that have any questions or concerns? I can speak after. I just had maybe a concern, but I would just like to put something in the I don't know if it's in the regulations, but how it should be worded. But I will let the other board members have the opportunity to be able to ask any questions or comments before we close this out. No questions or comments? Okay, so Director Landry, my comment was, because I know this, hopefully we won't have another disaster or another state of emergency. I'm sure it won't be in my time as a board member, hopefully not. But my question or concern is, how can we have this in the regulation where it states that the amount of hours? I know the last time that we had to be, it was the first time, you know, so we did what we had to do, and that's understandable. But moving forward, can we put something there that the board will have when it's time for the adoption or the time to enforce this particular regulation to put into play? How do we state that regulation, the hours that the students receive during the disaster, be instructed by the board, and those out, and then have like somewhere where we see how that's working, and then if it's not working too, that we can bring it back, and it won't get so far as we did this particular time with the theory hours, because that was a huge concern, not just for me, but the majority of the board members. I can be safe to say that.
Yeah, this is exactly right. What you would do is when you allow practical learning to be done through the distance learning at home, you would specify that it will be allowed during this time frame. And you can make that 1 month, make it 1 year, you can make it whatever time, or you can say it's to the extent of the emergency declaration. And you would also say how many hours they would be allowed to practice. So if you wanted 30%, 50%, 80%, 10%, whatever percentage you want, you can limit it to that. So that gives you maximum flexibility. That's why we didn't want to put anything in the NACs that regulates the number of hours. When the board votes, they're going to vote on allowing it and then telling how many hours you could use it and do it. How many hours could be utilized by the students in the training.
Okay, that's what I was. Board Member Baltazar?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Gary, you just answered my question. I just wanted there to be flexibility in the language for us to make those determinations as we move along and see fit. I didn't want anything to be set in stone that would kind of prevent us from maneuvering in the future. So yes, Madam Chair, you are correct. That was a concern for all the board members.
Yes.
And
okay, go ahead, Director Landry.
I just wanted to make mention that we came up with the wording for this and tried to make it put as few words as possible to put it in, get it into the NAC, and then allow the board at that time of implementing it to say the number of hours and how many hours and what type of training you can do. Leave that up to the board at that time, because things are going to change over time. You may get more advanced techniques to be done at home. You may get more advanced. You can have all kinds of 3D learning that you could do, in a remote setting. as the technology changes, as the teaching methods change, the board would reflect that in the number of hours that they would allow in practical training.
Awesome. Okay, Board Member Stanton.
I thank you, Madam President. The Executive Director just answered the second half of my question. So that works out. I just wanted to make sure there was the flexibility there with curriculums changing and being to. I'm finding out that a lot of things for instructors are being built up amazingly. So there are some great things that are coming out there moving forward. So I wanted to make sure that was in that amendment. Okay, thank you.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so my question is, how do we actually state that, Director Landry? You want to say that again so that we can state it correctly? But that was the only concern that I had about the practical, is just to make sure that the board has the control. I want to say control, because we need to, the board members at that time need to be able to say, they're not locked in, or we're not locked in to how many hours that the students can receive for practical training and theory training moving forward in the case of a emergency or disaster declared.
This is Executive Director Landry again. What I would suggest is don't put anything in the NAC that talks about number of hours or anything like that. The way it says it now is, as soon as the national disaster or the emergency situation is declared by the governor or the legislature, the board may authorize practical training training of practical at home only on a mannequin. That's a may. The board will meet. They'll set the number of hours. They'll set everything up. You don't have to state that in the NAC, but that's what would happen if you follow the NAC the way it's written now.
Okay.
I wouldn't suggest any changes right now to the wording, but you know that you're going to set the number of hours. You're going to set what type of training can be done.
Well, because it has the may, that was the key to it. Okay.
Right.
I've got two more board members. Board Member McCormick, you can go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because it does say by affirmative vote, authorize students to complete practical training at home. So we still will have that option that means they can finish up at home, correctly? If it says it's stated that if they have remaining hours, they'd be able to graduate and complete their entire training at home.
This is Executive Director Landry. You would be able to say how many hours they're allowed to take, and if they don't have enough hours to complete, then they're gonna have to wait till they can go back to school and finish the hours at school. The board would have complete control over the number of hours and the type of training to be done. The only thing we're adding in here is the practical training. Theory training is already allowed, and it's already allowed in the NAC and the law. So that's all taken care of. This is just making practical training available at home if the board wants to allow that. The board doesn't have to. The board can allow it, not allow it for a certain time, or allow it for however long you want, but the board would still maintain control over the entire process.
So we don't have to say, because I'm like with McCormick, we don't have to say that they cannot complete training at home.
No.
That's going to be, because that's what we want to make sure that it's clear that they cannot complete training at home.
Yeah, it'll be whatever the board wants to do at the time that they're going to vote. It's not going to be something the law or the regulations are going to state. The board's going to take it upon themselves to vote the way they think it should be, and that's the way it will be. It's not fixed in the laws and fixed in regulations.
I'm just, I'm Director Landry. I'm confused about that one a little bit, because the way that it is written, it doesn't say for sure that they cannot complete training at home. It's just during the time. So I guess they would have to be able, some of them will be completing the training at home, because if it's a disaster, because we have to still look out. If it's a disaster and it lasts a year, and you're in cosmetology school and you have 500 hours left, or 700 hours, that means you're going to complete training at home.
That's correct. If that's what the board wants to do, the board can allow someone to complete their training at home. But if the board finds that there's not a good pass rate, it finds that there's not good teaching going on using these methods, the board does not have to. The board may, doesn't say shall, says may allow practical training at home. It's completely up to the board at their discretion when a disaster occurs or when a state of emergency is put in place.
Okay. Board Member Stanton,
I thank you. I think the executive director just explained what I was going to say. Actually, that interpretation is absolutely is how I read it. The may changes the whole information as far as also allowing the board to be able to adjust according to the times that we're in. So that may does put a different spin off on the interpretation of complete.
okay,
So that allows us to be a lot more flexible in what you were saying. And if the board does feel that there is the need of completion that needs to be available due to whatever state of emergency is in, I think that that wording helps everything to be a lot more adjusted accordingly without major law changes.
okay.
Also, this will be going into effect. We're not talking as of this time because all masks are lifted. I just want to be clear. I want clarification on that as well regarding 2023, not within right now, because we're no longer in the state of emergency, if I'm not mistaken, as far as mask mandate and all that other definition of. So I do believe also that is over. So all of the hybrid and education, all that stuff should be done with. So this would be implemented as for 2023 so far, correct?
That is not correct. This is Executive Director Landry. We are still in a state of emergency. The governor has not lifted that. So when this would go in place, this would not go in place immediately. This has to go to the LCD. They have to review it. They have to give it to the legislative subcommittee. Legislative subcommittee has to approve it for it to go into the NAC. At that time, when it goes into the NAC, the board would have the power to say you can do practical training at home on a mannequin and allow it or not. You don't have to allow it, but it gives you the ability to allow it.
Okay, that's good information. So is that's something, that's a discussion for a separate meeting. That has nothing to do with the amendment that we're discussing now, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So Madam President, is that something that we also need to further add to the meeting or I don't know.
Well, we can talk about that at the end of for comments. We can put whatever we need to put at this time. I'm correct, Director Landry, on the agenda for review. We have a meeting coming up in April. We can see what April looks like and move forward from there. I'm good with that. Okay, so any other board members have any other questions or concerns? Okay, I would like to call for the board to adopt NAC 644A 618 for possible action. Can I get a motion to pass the adoption of NAC 644A 618?
Madam President, this is Kai Stanton. I would like to make a motion to adopt our 644A 61A RO 20-21.
Board Member Harris, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Comments from the general public. The comments, no action can be taken unless it was included on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone have a comment? Okay, Ms. Shelton? Is it Sharonna Shelton?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you can go right ahead.
Okay, so this is the last public comment because you guys are done with your agenda, right? Or Yes, okay. So I wanted to do, I know that you can't take action on this because it's not on your agenda, and hoping that it will follow in April's agenda. My public comment is on SB 291 and the detrimental financial economic impact that it will be having on licensees. As stated with your first agenda item, I heard you guys speak on the small business impact statement. It is unfortunate that the board did not think it was necessary to send out a notice of a small business impact statement to all its licensees. The same way that you guys all sent us an email in order to prepare yourselves for the meeting today to see what questions we may have about SB 291. So now I know that everyone on the board has the ability to notify us, which nobody did, about SB 291. As it relates to the affidavit that you guys have only asks about lasers, and it only asks about 75 hours in lasers. From what I've been aware of in the comments that have been made and amongst the estheticians, that now we are even allowing those who have a cosmetology license with less than probably 300 hours of aesthetics time to obtain advanced aesthetics license based on getting a 75-hour laser training. Most of us do not even do lasers in our service. However, the board felt it was necessary to have such a detrimental economic impact on us that we cannot perform services based on the law that I read, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, chemical peels, things that you guys have already licensed us to do. We went to school, we paid for school, we went to school for those hours. You all issued a license for us to be able to perform those services. That is unethical to me. There should be a realistic plan about grandfathering us in. Those of us who have 900 hours, those of us who have continuing advanced education hours that is not required by the board, we should be able to present those things and come to the board and state why we should have and be afforded the opportunity to have our advanced aesthetics license. And I also believe the board, should be more intentional about informing licensees. We're a small business too. So to hear you all say that you guys send small impact business statements to the schools, but forgot us, the ones who pay for our licenses, just like the schools do, the ones who uphold the ethical part of this industry. And it was almost like you guys just left us in the dark. And there are a lot of upset estheticians. There are a lot of us.
Sharonna, we have to cut you off. It's been 3 minutes you've been speaking, so we have to cut you off now.
We thank you for your comment. We'll go on to the next individual.
Can I just want to say something to Sharonna. Sharonna, next week, we're gonna have an emergency meeting to address the issue. But unfortunately, you know, I have to say this in the defense of the board members as well, because we've been truly attacked on this issue. That wasn't our bill. That wasn't the state board's bill. We stepped in at the 11th hour to try to save it. So we are trying to find ways to make sure that it will be convenient and cost effective for the estheticians to be grandfathered in. We're just trying to figure it out as well. It's unfortunate that we're being blamed for it. And I have to speak up because we tried to save it. It was gonna be even more so. So, you know, I understand the frustration. I understand, all the board members understand the frustration, and staff does as well. But we did the best that we could do to save it at the 11th hour, if that makes sense to you. So next week, we will be having a conversation. You should be getting a notification, and the estheticians across the state should be getting notification of next week's board meeting, if that will help you any. Okay, the next person, is it Warda? Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm a nurse practitioner by license, and I do work with esthetician. So
Warda,
my thing,
Warda, can I stop you for a second. If you can please state your full name for the
Okay.
record.
Okay. My name is Warda Ali, and
How do
I'm
you
a,
spell your last name, Warda?
uh-huh,
How do you spell your last name?
it's ALI.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
thank you very much.
Okay, so my question is, because I'm a nurse practitioner by license, I did not know anything about the laws being changed until somebody walked into my practice. My thing is, if I have regular estheticians who are not interested in doing lasers, how do we differentiate? You know what I mean? Are you guys gonna issue? I mean, I know that during advanced course, but I think also lash technicians are required to have that. Am I mistaken?
Well, at this time, we don't have a lash technician license.
Well,
No, wait. No, wait, do not answer. This is not a question and answer period. This is-
Okay,
You can't answer any questions. You can ask any question you want. We'll take it down and we can address it at the meeting on the 14th.
Okay. So my question is, I just wanted to know if you guys are differentiating. I did not know they didn't have a license. So my thing is, with people like me do have estheticians in their clinic, I did have one who does operate lasers, and she's grandfathered in, but there's another one who's a lash technician. If she takes the course for advanced esthetician, but she only wants to do lashes, is this including lasers and everything else? Because we the outsiders also need to know. That's my concern, you know what I mean? So that, because we don't get emails from the cosmetology board or anything like that. I am getting licensed for that, just for my practice, but it's a medical practice at the end of the day. So I'm really confused. So I feel like we also need a hand in understanding what's going on.
can we, Director Landry, can we hear from our AG, please? Ms. Harris, can you give us some guidance on this esthetician issue? Because at this time, it's just really stressful for all the board members. I mean, the board members and the staff has really been taking a beat with this. So we just need some direction.
Gwen, this is Bertha Jackson. We actually can't discuss anything regarding SB 291 right now during this meeting. It's a comment only section. The only thing we can do is take down their questions or concerns. We can try to address it. I think our meeting for the 14th has already been posted. So we might have to push those questions out if they're not already on the agenda for the 14th. So this is only a comment section of the agenda. We can't discuss anything. We can only notate and then for possible action at a later time.
That is appropriate to at least take questions or concerns from licensees at this time, given the fact that taking or addressing any questions in this section of the agenda, we probably can enter into unfortunate deliberation issues, so we don't want to expose that. But it is important at this juncture just to take their concerns to be able to provide clarity down the road.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm just gonna finish by asking, all providers, meaning dermatologists, plastic surgeons, all these medical offices, us being providers, are we required to have cosmetology licenses? And if so, I think it should be communicated to us as outsiders. I know you're gonna address it on the 14th. The only reason I knew about this meeting is because I had an inspector come in and state that I was in violation, and which took me by surprise because I called the office on December and they said I was fine. I just opened my office. So, and I was informed that all the doctors who have estheticians have to have a cosmetology salon license. So
Gorda, we're gonna stop you right there. The 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
We can take down your questions and for a later time. We
Okay,
so much
thank
for
you.
your comment.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next individual.
Okay, I think we've answered. I think Warda she still has her hand up. Maybe she has one more question. You have one more question, Warda? Okay, she's
No,
still.
no, I'm sorry. No, no.
Okay, you can take your hand was still up. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so this closes that section of public comment. I would like to move on to comments from any of the board members for discussion only. Any board members have any other comments for possible action or discussion? The only comment I have is just okay, go ahead. I see two. Brian Baltazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I really just want to echo what you said earlier in regards to the Senate bill. Senator Roberta Lang, this is her bill, and the board is not always looped in when a bill is being proposed. Sometimes we find out as we're doing our own research. So a senator has the ability, or any legislator has the ability of submitting a piece of legislation without even communicating with the board, which has happened before in the past. I'm not saying that that is an excuse, but I'm saying that we can be left out in the dark as well, and we do our best to address these in a timely manner and represent all licensees and schools. So I just wanted to throw that out there in defense of the board and our amazing staff.
Thank you, Baltazar, for your comment. Board Member Stanton.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. I fully support what Board Member Baltazar said, was my sentiments exactly. We have supported the community in their success. I did state as well, it's on record several times regarding keeping aesthetics informed, making sure that, you know, we take a very close look on those that have already been approved for certain licenses, classes that have worked diligently to preserve their education yearly, and that you are not overlooked in any way. I also want to say, so that the board can further discuss certain large concerns such as this one, that to please do a petition so that we can further discuss things, and also hopefully be able to have some amendments or motions that need to be put in place. So once again, for public wise, you can always, and I encourage to please have this information as a petition so that we can go into further detail with you for all board members. My other statement is I would like to see the license, a lash license application be brought up for the next board meeting. I would like to put that on there. There has been some strong, not just awareness and classes, but just a strong interest in that. Interest is actually just a mild word. There has been some really booming growth in that area, and I would love for the board to take another closer look at that, to turn that into a license for the community to further support getting back to work, and also a lot of the businesses that are opening as well as those that are just wanting to horn in on that particular skill. So once again, I would like the lash license to be added for the Nevada State Board to talk about in April. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that on there regarding notifications. I'm not sure how we can even talk about that, but I do believe I did make that statement that estheticians are to be notified. So how do we going forward ensure certain notifications in general, not just in one particular topic? So we do need to have that for the April agenda as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or concerns for that any other board members have before we close out? Board Member Stanton, what, you still have another comment?
This is board member.
Oh, no, I didn't take my hand down. I apologize. Let me remove that. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam
Board Member
President,
McCormick? Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I want to echo the sentiments of getting the information out by email so that they can participate in the 14th meeting. I know that I contacted, spoke with the board office last week, and it was not really certain whether or not we wanted to open it up to, by sending out that email. I did bring that up then. So perhaps if not, we can't make a motion in this meeting, but perhaps we can revisit that before that meeting happens to see if we can get an email out to the licensees to participate.
Yes, I totally agree. Director Landry, the board would like to have, I thought we had that discussion. I would like to see as well that all estheticians, we can only take so many calls, we're gonna only be able to hear so many, but it's gonna be important that we actually send this information out. I mean, because it's getting out that they weren't notified. So for the record, we would like the estheticians across the state to be notified of next Monday's meeting.
When this is Bertha Jackson, for the meeting on the 14th, 8,862 estheticians were notified via email that meeting will be held on that date. It was included, that date was included on a survey that was sent out to all of them. So they have been notified in that email.
Okay, I'm just following McCormick's lead. I didn't know, because I know she's a licensed esthetician as well.
Yeah, and I got the survey, and I think when I spoke with Lauren last week, I had asked about the emails or specifically just inviting people to attend. But if it's gone out, then that's perfect. I don't know that it wouldn't hurt to still send a follow-up email, just reminding them that this is happening, so everyone has a chance to participate.
Thank you, Board Member McCormick. Any other board members with any other questions or concerns before we adjourn the meeting? Thank you, board. Thank you for those that participated. I would like to call a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
Madam President, this is Stanton. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting for 3/7/22 today. Thank you.
Can I get a second?
Board Member Harris, I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.